Gregory stumbled over the lip of the floating platform, flailing his arms as if he could somehow convince gravity to let him land gracefully. The market sprawled beneath him like a living, blinking organism, stalls hovering on anti-grav pads, merchants shouting in languages that made his teeth itch. Somewhere above, a holographic jellyfish danced in midair, casting pulsing light over a cart selling creatures that looked like a cross between a cactus and a rabbit. "Okay," he muttered, dusting off his jacket and attempting what he hoped passed for confidence. "Just pick a pet, don't ask too many questions, and definitely don't trip over anything else." The third part was already failing. He approached a stall labeled Exotic Companions. Guaranteed delight, neon letters flickering above a display that promised everything from miniature dragon-like animals to floating orbs that purred when stroked. Gregory scanned the creatures, calculating which would require the least maintenance, or vocal negotiation. That's when he noticed movement on the other side of the counter. A shadow, small, crouched, trembling. His eyes narrowed. Is that one of your pets?" he asked, pointing vaguely at the figure. The stall owner, a squat alien with 6 eyes and a grin like a cracked helmet, chuckled. "Ah, yes, premium acquisition. Very rare. Take good care, human." Gregory stepped closer and froze. The pet wasn't small. It wasn't cute. It was a woman, and not quite human either. Her ears stretched elegantly past her shoulders, tapering to fine points, twitching nervously like radar dishes picking up every sound in the market. She blinked at him with wide, terrified eyes, and for a moment Gregory thought she might vanish if he stared too long. He coughed. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I was expecting a pet." The alien woman flinched, shrinking back, hiding her hands under her long sleeves, and muttering words that sounded like a gentle storm. Gregory stammered, feeling his confidence evaporate. No, I'm not going to, feed you? Or whatever the humans do with pets." He waved his hands helplessly, accidentally knocking over a stack of levitating cages, which spun slowly, then slammed gently into the wall with an apologetic ping. The woman blinked again, and for the first time, a flicker of something, curiosity, perhaps, or amusement, crossed her face. The vendor laughed, clearly delighted. "Premium, yes, very valuable. Excellent human for trade." He gestured with all 6 hands toward Gregory. "Take her. Careful, very sensitive. Not like your common creatures." Gregory blinked. Okay. Sensitive how?" The vendor only waved him off, leaving him standing frozen. A human man holding the trembling hand of a very non-human woman, surrounded by floating baskets of chittering, glowing critters. "Well," Gregory said, to no one in particular, "this is new." The woman peeked over at him, her long ears twitching like twin antennae, and let out a breath that sounded suspiciously like a hiccup. Gregory coughed again, offered his awkwardest smile, and muttered, "I don't know your name yet, but I promise I'm not going to eat you, or sell you, probably." The corners of her lips twitched into something resembling a smile, and Gregory felt a surge of relief. The market around them continued its chaotic symphony. Hovering carts zipped past with squeals of mechanical delight. A cluster of neon slug vendors argued over the price of a sentient moss, and a holographic advertisement for interstellar toothpaste flashed for a brighter galaxy. In 13 languages. Gregory shuffled, holding the alien woman gently but firmly, while she peered at every flashing light as if the world itself might devour her. "So," he said, trying to make conversation, "do you talk?" She nodded, and the translator device dangling from her neck buzzed awkwardly. Words spilled out in a hesitant, melodic cadence. Hello? Please, don't." She froze, and Gregory realized she was terrified not just of him, but of everything around them. His stomach twisted. "Right? Okay. So, apparently I am now responsible for the most endangered non-pet in the galaxy. Got it." He pinched the bridge of his nose, and in that motion, his sleeve snagged a glowing orb, which rolled across the floor and zapped itself awake with a spark. The woman squealed, half-laughed, half screamed, and Gregory winced. "I swear," he said, "this is not how I usually spend Tuesdays." And yet, as the chaos swirled, a strange understanding began to form. She wasn't a pet, she wasn't a commodity. She was something alive, aware, clever, and apparently terrified. But something in her glance hinted at resilience, maybe even a spark of mischief. Gregory felt the first real flicker of purpose that day. Maybe saving her wouldn't be entirely disastrous. Maybe. He glanced back at the grinning vendor. We're leaving now." He stepped forward, holding her hand lightly, while the alien woman hesitated, then shuffled along, her ears twitching at every sound, at every footstep, as if mapping the market for an escape route. Gregory sighed. This is going to be interesting. And for the first time, he almost laughed. Gregory led her down a narrow corridor where the market's chaos dimmed into a faint hum of machinery and distant, glowing signs. The alien woman clung to his sleeve, her long ears quivering like delicate antennas attuned to every murmur of the city. "Okay," he muttered, glancing around. "Step 1, don't get lost. Step 2, don't die. Step 3, we'll figure that out later." She blinked up at him, eyes wide, and he realized he had no idea what her name was, or how to ask for it without sounding like a complete idiot. "I'll call you Lyra," he said finally, because it sounded nice, and because his brain had temporarily short-circuited. Lyra's ears twitched. She tilted her head, and he took it as approval. They navigated through the underbelly of the market, where anti-gravity crates floated lazily and neon fungus crept along walls in curious geometric patterns. Gregory tried to keep conversation alive, mostly because the silence made him nervous. "So, you like glowing fungi?" he asked, pointing to a particularly cheerful neon patch. Lyra's eyes darted to it, then to him, and she snorted softly. Not a sound he expected, but it made him grin. "I'll take that as a yes. Or maybe a polite, I tolerate your human weirdness." As they turned a corner, a squad of robotic sentinels clanked by, their optics scanning, whirring, and beeping in a manner that suggested a keen interest in everything except subtlety. Lyra froze, pressing herself against Gregory's side, ears flattening. "Relax," he whispered, though his voice wavered. "They're probably more afraid of me than I am of them." One sentinel stopped mid-step, tilted its head, and a tiny display on its chest flashed the words, "Unauthorized human interaction detected. Potential smuggling of exotic entity." Gregory blinked. "Yeah, that's us. Totally unauthorized. Definitely smuggling. Big mistake, boss." They ducked into a side tunnel where the air shimmered with faint electromagnetic currents. Gregory's hand brushed against a control panel, and a holographic map flickered to life, showing an intricate network of alleys, maintenance lifts, and emergency exits. Lyra's eyes widened, and she whispered something in her melodic language. The translator buzzed, producing a hesitant phrase, "They know we move. Follow carefully." Gregory gave her a thumbs up, though he wasn't entirely sure who he was signaling, her, the translator, or the universe in general. "Right? Careful it is," he said, as a neon puddle of semi-sentient goo sloshed past, giggling at him. Hours, or what felt like hours, in this gravity-warped warren. Passed as they stumbled over malfunctioning hoverboards, dodged a pair of arguing cyborg merchants, and narrowly avoided a shipment of levitating meatballs that had escaped containment. At one point, Gregory accidentally activated a vending drone, which promptly sprayed glittering, sticky goo all over his coat. Lyra couldn't hold it in. She laughed. A sound like wind chimes tangled in silk, and for a moment he forgot the danger around them. "You know," he said, trying to sound casual as he peeled goo from his sleeve, "this is not how I usually date aliens. Or anything, really." She giggled again, leaning lightly against him. As they paused in a quiet corner, Lyra's hands moved over the translator device, and words formed in hesitant English. I can help. You human escape." Gregory stared at her, impressed. "Wait, you mean you're not just hiding? You actually know stuff?" She nodded. Yes, they want control, not freedom. We move now. Gregory felt a thrill mixed with dread. Here he was, a man who could barely assemble a kitchen appliance without catastrophic results, now planning an escape from a faction that could probably disassemble him with a glance. Well, he said, rubbing the back of his neck, at least I'm in good hands, right? Or ears. Lyra's ears twitched again, and she gestured for him to follow. They climbed a spiraling maintenance lift that hummed with anti-gravity energy, dodged a patrolling drone that seemed obsessed with spinning in his face, and ducked into a maintenance shaft that smelled faintly of ozone and fried circuits. Gregory muttered, note to self, when humans say pet shop adventure, they usually mean something cute and fluffy, not urban espionage across an alien metropolis. Lyra made a sound that was halfway between laughter and exasperation, and he realized that she found his commentary almost as amusing as the absurdity of the situation. By the end of the night, they reached a vantage point overlooking the sprawling city, the lights shimmering like a galaxy condensed into a single plane. Gregory leaned against the railing, exhausted, and Lyra perched beside him, her ears gently twitching at every distant noise. You know, he said softly, I didn't think saving a terrified alien woman would involve so many things exploding, almost, and robots yelling at me. Lyra chuckled quietly, nudging him lightly with her shoulder. We survive. Together. Gregory looked at her determined eyes and fragile, human-like gestures, and felt a strange warmth of trust settle between them. Together, he echoed, thinking that maybe this accidental rescue could turn into something a lot more than he ever expected. The city sprawled below them like a glittering labyrinth, neon veins pulsing with light and motion, while above, the sky shimmered with streaks of ionized clouds. Gregory clutched the railing of the anti-gravity platform, staring down at the chaos he and Lyra had navigated for what felt like an eternity. Okay, he muttered, brushing grease and neon goo off his sleeve. Final leg. Stay calm. Stay alive. Don't trip over anything important. Lyra's long ears twitched, scanning the cityscape with a precision he could only marvel at. She leaned close, whispering in a tone the translator managed to render as, they will come. Move carefully. Gregory nodded, though his legs shook slightly. Their route to the starship lay through a network of service tunnels and hovering freight carriers, and Gregory had discovered that navigating them required equal parts luck, ingenuity, and sheer accident. Case in point, a stray maintenance drone nearly tipped him into a vat of glowing fuel. He yelped, flailed, and somehow rolled himself upright, smearing fuel and dignity in equal measure. Lyra's laugh, bright, musical, rang in his ears, and for the first time since the market, he actually smiled. You know, he said, if we survive this, I'm claiming first rights to writing the manual on surviving alien cities without getting eaten or exploded. She twitched an ear and gave him a look that seemed to say, you barely qualify as competent human. He grinned sheepishly. Point taken. They moved quickly but carefully, dodging patrol drones and security turrets. Lyra guided him with an uncanny ability to sense electromagnetic fields, subtly nudging him towards safe paths while avoiding sensors. Gregory marveled at her skill. You're like some kind of alien GPS, with ears. Lyra rolled her eyes, or at least the closest approximation humans could see, and muttered something that sounded suspiciously like human humor. Predictable. He laughed, trying to keep the mood light even as their pursuers closed in. At one narrow junction, a squad of operatives cornered them, weapons humming with energy. Gregory froze, but Lyra's hand shot out, pressing against a control panel. Sparks arced, lights flickered, and the floor beneath the operatives opened into a pit of anti-grav foam, sending them flailing upward in a harmless but spectacular display. Gregory staggered back, wide-eyed. Okay. So that's how you handle bad guys, he said, wiping sweat from his forehead. Lyra merely smirked, ears flicking in amusement. Show, not tell, she said, her voice calm but amused. They continued through the remaining tunnels, Lyra occasionally manipulating electronic locks with a flick of her fingers, her abilities complementing Gregory's human improvisation, like jamming a security scanner with a broken snack container he found along the way. Their partnership had become instinctive, each saving the other from mistakes or danger. And in that process, Gregory felt a surge of confidence he hadn't known he possessed. He wasn't just a confused human anymore. He was someone who could think quickly, adapt, and even protect another life. And somehow that was exhilarating. Finally, the starship came into view, a sleek vessel glowing faintly with blue ion lights, hovering above the cityscape. The gangplank extended, and for a tense moment, Gregory feared one last ambush. But the area was clear, and Lyra gave him a nod. "Now," she said. Together, they sprinted, leaping onto the ship. Gregory stumbled, almost tripping, but Lyra grabbed his arm, steadying him. They fell onto the deck in a heap, panting and laughing, and for a brief moment, everything felt absurdly, wonderfully safe. As the engines hummed to life, lifting them above the city, Gregory looked at Lyra. She adjusted her long ears, a subtle smile on her face. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for trusting me." She shrugged, though the translator buzzed with, "We trust each other now. That is enough." Gregory chuckled, leaning back against the railing. "Yeah, it's enough, but I guess I've changed. Huh? Thought I was just going to pick a pet. Ended up this." He gestured at her, at the ship, at the stars stretching infinitely around them. Lyra laughed softly, her voice tinged with warmth. "Change is sometimes necessary, dangerous, but worth it." The ship surged forward, gliding silently into the stars. Gregory realized that life would never feel ordinary again. He had gone in expecting a pet, and found a partner, a friend, and a world of possibilities. The fear, the laughter, the chaos. They had all shaped him, taught him courage, and revealed a capacity for compassion he had never known. And beside him, Lyra sat, ears gently twitching, gazing at the stars with a mix of curiosity and amusement. For the first time, Gregory felt that perhaps he had stumbled into exactly the adventure he was meant to have, and somehow, improbably, it was perfect. The city below faded into a constellation of lights, and above, the stars stretched endlessly. They were free. They were together. And in the vastness of the galaxy, Gregory felt something he had never expected. A deep, steady certainty that the journey was just beginning, but that he was no longer alone.